When Thomas got there, the road was blocked by a long line of stopped cars. He had never seen such a situation before. He cautiously walked towards an angry animal, ready to cause trouble among the cars in its way. But then he noticed something else on the road, and he felt very sad because he had arrived too late. State Trooper Thomas Owens tightly held the steering wheel. Traffic was getting worse by the second, and car horns were honking more frequently. The large animal on the road was getting scared, and people were running out of patience. Thomas slowly drove his vehicle forward. Then, he noticed something hiding in the bushes. When Thomas Owens was a young boy, he had a strong fascination with car chases. Every evening after school, he hoped to see a glimpse of a chase on the news. Some of these chases ended tragically, but most resulted in justice being served. Law enforcement usually managed to catch the criminals and bring back peace and safety to the roads. However, Thomas' mother was concerned about his obsession with high-speed chases. A mother's intuition is often right. On his 16th birthday, Thomas' father had to take the car keys from his mother's hands. She was worried about the idea of her only son driving on the road. Maybe he would be a danger to himself. What if he harmed someone else? It's a small town, Thomas. If we get one sniff of you being reckless, you can say goodbye to the truck, she warned. Thomas was young, but he was responsible. He knew the dangers of the roads, but he never expected his parents to forget them. Thomas loved his independence. He picked his friends up for school, dropped them home, cruised to his part-time job in his local grocery store, and then returned home. He made sure to stay safe. But when he arrived back one day to discover his mother's car missing, he panicked. Later, he discovered that she had been involved in a hit and run. Distraught, he could not fathom how someone could do that. Over the next few weeks, he stayed by her side for hours a day. The incident made a huge impact on his life, and that changed his course for his future. During his senior year of high school, Thomas's friends couldn't help but share their intentions to attend college. They had big dreams of becoming doctors, scientists, teachers, and athletes. And when he shared his plan to become a state trooper, they weren't surprised. After his mother's accident, he stopped attending their car chase marathons. He was far too familiar with the reality of dangerous driving. However, he underestimated some parts of the job description. In his years in law enforcement, Thomas had never seen anything like this before. There was a commotion up ahead, and cars were backed up for miles. As he zoomed past the traffic, he had no idea exactly what scene awaited him on the road that day. But he had a sinking feeling that whatever it was, it must be serious. At first, Thomas thought someone might have had an issue with their vehicle, but as he got a closer look, he could see why all the cars had come to a halt. And now, he could never unsee the situation again. Then it dawned on Thomas that people were getting out of their cars to see what the commotion was about, and he started to yell. Bretton Woods spans across 700 acres of land. The area is home to nearly 200 species of birds alone, so it's no surprise that the land became a protected wilderness. But Thomas was about to encounter the biggest animal in Bretton Woods. Encounters with one particular animal were all too common, and each dangerous interaction with bears can have a different outcome. All of Thomas's experience didn't prepare him for what he was about to face. Thomas knew his training when it came to interacting with dangerous animals, but still, he never could have prepared for what he was about to encounter. There, stopping traffic, was an enormous black bear. She was pacing aggressively back and forth across the busy main road. The scene was chaos as Thomas yelled for people to return to the safety of their cars. Bears usually kept to themselves around these areas. Why was this one different? The drivers scrabbled back into their cars when they heard Thomas' warning yells, and they were now protected by sheets of steel. But Thomas, exposed and on foot, had nowhere to turn. All the drivers were now waiting, terrified in their cars, but it didn't seem like she would move. He decided to tell everyone to turn back. They had to give this incredible and dangerous animal space. As cars started to turn around, Thomas got a closer look at what was keeping this bear so occupied in the middle of the road. As he mustered up all his courage and took a step closer, He knew precisely why this bear seemed to have no fear of humans. Thomas crept forward to get a better look. Then, he noticed the bear had some followers. 4 cubs ambled across the road. 3 followed their mother to the other side, but one struggled. It sat down to rest its legs. This little guy wouldn't budge, and she seemed to be getting sick and tired of waiting. Then this mother did something unexpected. Mama Bear returned to the cub's side and began to nudge him with her nose. She slowly walked to and from either side of the road, showing her young what to do. Thomas couldn't believe his luck. He had never seen a bear with 3 cubs, let alone 4. However, after a few minutes of watching her struggle to get the cub to stand, he knew something was wrong. Thomas watched her return to the shelter of the trees, leaving one young cub to fend for itself. His heart sank. Then, he sprang into action. Thomas rushed to the abandoned cub's side. Then Thomas noticed that the poor cub could barely keep its eyes open. It tried to stand, but then collapsed. Something was terribly wrong. He scooped the sick cub up into his arms and ran back to his squad car. Would he make it in time? On the way to the New Hampshire Fish and Game Center, Thomas couldn't help but think of the mother bear. Sure, her baby was sick, but was that really an excuse to leave it to fend for itself? In the wild, most bears had a litter of 2 cubs. 3 cubs were rare, but 4 were practically a miracle. Understandably, some were stronger than others. Thomas raced to the center where he was met by vets and nurse, and they all worked tirelessly through the night. Thomas later discovered the logic behind the mother bear's decision to abandon her sick cub. Although the cub was well nursed, the likelihood of the cub's survival without the correct help was slim. If she had stayed with the sick cub, she would have put the rest of the litter in danger. News of Thomas's rescue spread across the small town. Then, officials gave Thomas some more shocking news. This baby was not the only one who had been abandoned. The mama bear had 5 cubs by her side. Thomas knew exactly what he had to do. If they couldn't locate the cub, the canines were sure to sniff it out. It wasn't long before they managed to locate the poorly 5th cub not far from its mother's crossing location. It was cold, wet, and hungry, but they managed to get help just in time. The center had a tough decision to make. What were they to do once the cubs were healthy? They couldn't bottle feed forever. Thankfully, the brother and sister bears got better quickly, and their caregivers believed it was because they were always together. Most animals that are rescued take some time to feel better because they're usually stressed and lonely. These 2 bear cubs show that love can heal them the most. The center plans to put the cubs back with their mom once they're strong enough, and there's someone who has been watching them closely. Thomas, the state trooper, has seen many unusual things in his job. One thing he never thought he'd save while working was not just 1 bear cub, but 2. If he hadn't acted fast, these 2 cubs might not have survived. Even though he's focused on protecting the people of Carroll, New Hampshire, Thomas has made sure to include all the residents in his efforts, even the ones with 4 legs.